So when even Scotland's Conservative leaders were perceived as having to protect Scotland from Mrs Thatcher, something quite dangerous was happening to the union she loved. The old British politics of left versus right, Labour versus Tory, the state versus the market, were giving way to something new, England versus Scotland, with the Conservative Party being seen more and more as the English party, with a set of values that weren't just alien, but actively hostile to what Scotland wanted. And so places like this, prosperous, aspirational, home-owning, natural Tory territory almost anywhere else in Britain, and which had been happily Tory in the past, now turned away from the Conservative Party. Why, though? Was Scotland really more left-wing than England? More compassionate, less aspirational, less concerned with private wealth? There's no firm evidence that Scotland was any of these things. So why were England and Scotland now voting so differently?
There were three things operating in my view. The first is the significant numbers of middle class and professional Scots who were employed in the public sector and who feared very much for their position, for their jobs. A second factor was that by the time you get to the late 1980s, there is a sense of an awareness, if you like, of the extraordinary damage done to Scotland, or at least to the old industrial structure of Scotland, by this particular regime. And I think the third factor is that the heavy industry in Scotland and everything that went with it was actually a badge of identity. And there was also developing awareness that whatever the rationality of these economic policies from the late 1970s and early 1980s, there was an awareness, I think, that the whole thing was handled far too rigorously, with too little sensitivity for Scottish opinion.